Do you want some ideas before you set up your next nano aquarium for either your betta or your shrimp? Well, I hope that you enjoy my aquascaping competition time-lapse footage that I filmed at the recent Aquashella in Orlando. There I got to participate in an aquascaping competition against other YouTubers as well as professional aquascapers. It was very intimidating and we only had 1 hour to set up our fish tank, but it was an exciting opportunity and I was very excited to film this as well so I can share this with you and you can see the process that goes into setting up this aquarium. As you can see, I take my time in between every piece that I work on. So first I put in the substrate, then I put in the wood, and then I experiment with the rocks. Now the rocks particularly didn't get me too excited. I didn't feel like they played a very huge role in the scape that I was working on. I really wanted the wood to be the star of the show because I really enjoyed the bridge in the middle. So I ended up putting the rocks in the back and using them to weigh down the spiderwood, which is known to float. Now I don't remember all of the names of the plants that I used. I ended up using plants that I've never used before, but I was really excited to do so. I learned a couple tips beforehand from Joanna from the Small Scape, who not only explained how I should be using the super glue properly, but she also showed me the cool spray that I can use to make the super glue set a lot faster. I very quickly learned by observing all the other aquascapers that there are a lot of tips and tricks out there to help you make a really awesome aquascape that you might not have known about, and I learned a lot of things just by watching everybody. So if you ever have an opportunity to come to one of these shows and watch the aquascapers demo what they do, sometimes they'll even show you an explained lesson. It is an amazing opportunity to learn a new skill. So in this particular scape, I really wanted to focus on this beautiful bridge, which I imagined would have been really great for dwarf and eukaryotina shrimp to kind of walk around as they would graze on little particles. And I wanted to include some caves as well, so they have nice little safe hiding places in case they would be spawning for the little tiny baby shrimp. Whenever I set up my aquariums, I always imagine what kind of animals I would be keeping inside, and according to that, I try to think of different areas that the fish or little critters would be interacting with their environment, and then I try to set up an appropriate environment that will kind of encourage their natural behaviors. So even though this was a scaping competition and I should be focusing on the rules of scaping, because I'm not super familiar with those just yet, as I am a little baby scaper, kind of a beginner, I pretty much defaulted to what I was familiar with and thought about different things that would make my little shrimp happy if this was a shrimp tank. I also took inspiration from some of the other scapers, so if you stay tuned to the end of the video, I will show you the completed aquascapes by some of the professionals, and you will be able to see the inspiration that I have taken from observing them as well. I hope that you can also take some inspiration not only from observing me work on my scape, but from the scapes that you will see at the end, because they are really beautiful. They're all unique, and here I am using that little setting spray, which was really cool. I added some anubias on top, and then I put the plants in some of the crevices that will be cute little hidey spots. I did learn that I have to be quite careful with super glue because I ended up getting it all over my fingers and nails and then proceeded to have to scrape it off for the next couple of hours. That was not fun. Another option could have been to wear some gloves. Those will help prevent you from sticking to your surfaces. When I was planting other individual plants, such as this nice dwarf grass, I planted them in little clumps. I know that some aquascapers would break them up into even smaller bits and plant those inside, but because I'm still not very good at using aquascaping tools and putting plants into the gravel in a really controlled way, I went for what was the easier option, and that was planting larger chunks. It does not look as cool as spacing out the little tiny bits, but it worked just fine. I also got to use a paintbrush, which was also very fun, to brush the substrate around. I ended up adding a lighter substrate in the middle to kind of create this nice little path that would go through the two pieces of wood as well as the rock. And I thought that kind of gave it a little whimsical kind of look that, once again, I got inspired from yet another aquascaper. So pretty much I looked at what other people were working on, and I took little bits and pieces of inspiration that helped inspire my tank. And I think that's really great and a good way to learn, and when you are trying to improve on a skill. Going into this, I had a feeling that I probably wouldn't win because I'm still a beginner and I'm competing against some really amazing people. But the thing is, you have to start out somewhere. If you're intimidated to try new things, know that when you start out, you're not going to make super amazing things right away, and that's okay. With practice and perseverance, you will get better each time you try the thing that you want to be good at. So here is a closer look at my attempt. This was my little bridge with the little path in the middle and two secret caves. I want to call it shrimp forest, the shrimpy forest. I think I did a pretty good job for a beginner, and I was very proud of myself because my plants did not float up when this tank was filled up, which was somewhat my worry a little bit, and this is what it ended up looking. The scary part was this competition was judged by George Farmer, and I was like, oh my gosh, he's so fancy. He's looking at my little tiny scape, and I don't think I'm worthy, but I think I did okay. I held up my own. I represented all the creative critters of Creativepetkeeping the very best I could, and I'm very happy with how this scape turned out. If you thought my scape was nice, get ready. I'm about to blow your mind. Look at this. This is what happens when a professional gets an hour to scape a little 6-gallon. Man, oh my gosh. That is just a forest. It looks like a real magical forest. Like I could go sit on the side of the rocks and just observe birds and just live underwater. I want to live in this tank. And if you think it couldn't get any better, yes, it just keeps getting better from here. This is yet another beautiful scape that, once again, kind of reminds me of some trees growing out. There's a little path. These scapes make me feel like I'm going into an underwater world, and it just goes to show what someone who is very artistic and skillful can achieve with these same type of materials. And the cool thing about all this is all these scapes look vastly different and unique and very beautiful, and yet we all are using kind of the same things. We're using the same plants, we're using the same type of wood. We are able to use a variety of different substrates. You'll see that vary from tank to tank, but for the most part, it's all the same. So it just goes to show you that you can do a lot with the same materials, which I think makes this very, very inspiring. In this particular setup, you can see the rocks are playing a much stronger role, as well as the plants, and the wood seems to just kind of bring it all together. So you can definitely flip and decide what you want your strongest features to be. Now, I'm just assuming what the strongest features are because, I'm still a baby aquascaper, so I'm starting to learn to recognize things. And this is another tank that I got inspired from. So you can see this beautiful little moss growing on this piece of wood. That inspired me to attach moss to my pieces as well, and I did a kind of different version of this cool setup. So definitely could do a lot of things in so many different ways. Inspiration central. This is kind of what I felt like this area was, which is what's really cool about attending these water festivals. Did I just call it water festival? I guess it kind of is. Aquashella is like a fishy festival of awesomeness where you can get inspired. And speaking of inspired, this tank really inspires me as well, because this is a great example of just filling up the tank with large pieces, but also creating a lot of hiding spots where either shrimp or your little fish can swim in between and feel really safe, because certain fish are very skittish and feel a lot more comfortable in a space where they can hide from a lot of light and kind of swim in between little branches or plants or between the rocks. So let me know which scape was your favorite and why. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel if you already haven't. Give me a thumbs up if you like this video, and thank you for taking the time to hang out with me today. Bye!